My dear friends, how many times have you said to yourself, I'll do it tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes and you say it again and again until one day you realize the task never got done, the dream never got started, the change never began. We all wait for motivation to strike us, as if it's some magical energy drink that will make us unstoppable. But the truth is, motivation is unreliable. It's like that friend who promises to meet you at 6 a.m. for a jog and never shows up. If you only work when you feel like it, you'll never achieve what you truly deserve. Because greatness doesn't come from feeling ready. It comes from forcing yourself to take the first uncomfortable step. So today, let's talk about the art, the discipline, the sacred power of forcing yourself to get things done. Because the moment you stop waiting for the right mood and start doing what's right, your life begins to change. My dear friends, how many times have we all said, I'll start when I feel motivated? We wait for that magical spark, that perfect mood, that one song, that one quote, that one sunrise that will somehow make everything easier. But let me tell you something very honestly, motivation is like sugar. It gives you a rush for a few moments and then it crashes. It tastes good, it feels good, but it doesn't sustain you. Discipline, on the other hand, is like oxygen. You don't even realize how essential it is until you stop breathing it. You see, motivation depends on emotion, and emotion is unstable. Some days you wake up excited, and some days you wake up exhausted. If your actions depend on how you feel, then your growth will depend on how unstable your emotions are. Let's say you want to start exercising. The first few days, you're full of energy. You buy new shoes, you take selfies, you even post on social media. Day 1 of my transformation journey. Then comes day 5 Guar, and the alarm rings at 6 a.m. You look at the clock and think, maybe not today, just 5 more minutes. 5 minutes become 15. And before you know it, the transformation journey has transformed into procrastination. Motivation was there at the start, but motivation didn't stay. Why? Because it's not built to stay. Motivation is a visitor. It knocks on your door once in a while. But discipline is a roommate. It lives with you every single day. Discipline means doing what you said you'll do, even when you don't feel like it. That's the difference between the dreamers and the doers. Dreamers wait for the feeling to be right. Doers create the feeling by doing it anyway. My friends, discipline is not punishment. Discipline is love in action. When you are disciplined, you are showing love for your future self. You are saying, I may not feel like it now, but I care about where I'm going. Think of it like this. A parent doesn't always feel like cooking, cleaning, or going to work, but they do it out of love. Because their child's well-being matters more than their mood. The same way, your future self, your stronger, wiser, happier self, is waiting for you to be disciplined today. So stop chasing motivation. Start building discipline. Because motivation will inspire you for a moment, but discipline will transform you for a lifetime. And when people look at your success later, they'll say, you're so lucky, but you'll smile quietly and know it wasn't luck. It was discipline. The first step is always the hardest. Always. And you know why? Because the mind resists beginnings. It loves comfort. It loves familiarity. It loves staying in the zone where everything is predictable, safe, and easy. The moment you decide to step outside that comfort zone, it starts whispering, not today. Maybe later. Maybe when you're ready. But let me ask you something. When do we ever really feel ready? The truth is, you'll never feel ready. The perfect time doesn't exist. If you wait for the right time, you'll spend your whole life waiting. I remember once someone told me, I want to start reading every day, but I don't have the motivation. I said, forget motivation, just open the book, read one page, that's it. The next day they came back and said, I ended up reading for an hour, and I smiled because that's the secret. The first step creates momentum. You see, action comes before motivation, not after. Once you take that first tiny step, whether it's opening your laptop, putting on your shoes, or writing that first line, something shifts inside you. The resistance begins to fade, and energy starts to flow. It's like pushing a heavy rock. The hardest part is getting it to move, but once it's rolling, it gets easier with every push. The first step doesn't have to be big. It just has to be done. You don't have to climb the whole staircase today. Just take one step. You don't have to finish the book. Just write one paragraph. You don't have to run a marathon. Just walk to the gate. But the magic happens when you begin. Because every great thing you've ever admired, every success story you've ever heard, started with a small, shaky, uncertain first step. Think about it. The painter who now creates masterpieces once stared at a blank canvas. The musician who fills stadiums once held the instrument for the first time, unsure of every note. The speaker who inspires millions once trembled giving their first talk to 10 people. Everyone begins at the bottom. The difference is, they began. So many dreams die not because they were impossible, but because people never took that first move. They overthink, they overplan, they wait for the stars to align, forgetting that the stars only shine on those who start walking under the night sky. When you take the first step, you're sending a message to your brain. I'm serious about this. And your brain starts to follow your lead. Confidence doesn't come before action, it comes after it. You act first, and confidence grows from that action. Even fear starts to lose its power once you move, because fear feeds on inaction. It grows in silence. It thrives when you stand still. But once you take that step, even a small one, fear begins to shrink. And I want you to remember something powerful. Progress is not about how fast you move, it's about not stopping. Even if your first step is small, even if it's messy, even if you fall halfway, it's still a step forward. And every step forward counts. My friends, when your mind says, it's too hard, tell it gently, maybe, but I'll try anyway. When it says, what if I fail? Reply, then I'll learn. When it says, I can't, remind it, I've done hard things before. Because that's how growth happens, not in giant leaps, but in tiny acts of courage repeated every day. So the next time you're standing at the edge of something you want to begin, don't wait for the feeling, don't wait for perfection. Take that first step. Even if your hands shake, even if your voice cracks, even if your heart races. Because the first step may feel heavy, but it carries the weight of every dream you've ever had. And the moment you take it, you'll realize the hardest part wasn't doing it. The hardest part was deciding to begin. And once you begin, my friends, you'll never be the same again. Train your mind like a muscle. That's a truth most people never understand until life forces them to. You see, when you go to the gym, you don't pick up heavy weights on your first day and expect your body to handle it easily. You start small, you push through pain, through resistance, through soreness, and slowly, over time, your muscles grow stronger, your body adapts. What was once heavy becomes light. What was once impossible becomes effortless. But here's the beautiful thing, your mind works the exact same way. The mind is your most powerful muscle. And just like your body, if you don't train it, it becomes weak, lazy, and fragile. It starts giving up at the smallest challenge. It looks for shortcuts. It avoids discomfort. That's why so many people start things but never finish. Because their mind has never been trained to push through mental resistance. They've spent their lives choosing what's easy, and the mind, like a spoiled child, gets used to comfort. You tell it to wake up early, it says, 5 more minutes. You tell it to start studying, it says, let's check the phone first. You tell it to face a problem, it says, maybe tomorrow. And you listen again and again until your own mind becomes your master and you become its servant. But when you start training your mind, everything changes. The same way you strengthen your muscles by pushing against weight, you strengthen your mind by pushing against resistance. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, your mind becomes tougher. Every time you say no to procrastination, it becomes sharper. Every time you face something uncomfortable and do it anyway, it becomes stronger. Training your mind means teaching it that feelings don't control you. You control your feelings. It means learning to act, not react, to stay calm in chaos, to keep going when everything inside you screams, stop. Let me tell you a story. Once, a monk was asked how he remained so peaceful and focused every day. He smiled and said, because every day I face my mind. The man who asked him looked confused and said, but that sounds exhausting. The monk replied, exactly. It's exhausting in the beginning. But once you learn to face your mind, you stop being scared of it. That's what training does. It makes your mind your ally, not your enemy. You begin to recognize that your thoughts are just thoughts, not commands. Just because your mind says, I'm tired, doesn't mean you have to stop. Just because it says, this is hard, doesn't mean it's impossible. Think of every challenge as a workout for your brain. When life gets hard, when people test your patience, when plans fall apart, these are your mental push-ups. These are the moments your mind gets stronger. Most people run away from such moments, but the ones who grow lean into them. When you start training your mind, something magical happens. Things that once broke you no longer affect you the same way. That insult doesn't shake you. That failure doesn't destroy you. That fear doesn't paralyze you. Because you've built mental endurance. You've trained your inner strength. And remember, the mind doesn't get stronger by comfort. It gets stronger by challenge. So when you feel resistance, when things get hard, don't say, why me? Instead say, train me. Because every difficulty is your teacher. Every obstacle is your gym. Every setback is a chance to build resilience. When you learn to train your mind, you stop looking for motivation. You become your own source of power. You start realizing that your emotions may scream, but your willpower whispers, and it whispers, keep going. There will be days you'll fail, days you'll feel weak. But that's part of training too. No one gets strong without struggle. The same way an athlete tears muscles to rebuild them stronger, your challenges tear your old limits so new strength can emerge. So, wake up every morning and ask yourself, what am I training my mind for today? Am I training it for comfort, or am I training it for growth? Because you can't have both. My friends, life doesn't get easier. You get stronger. And the stronger your mind becomes, the less power your excuses will have over you. The less control your fears will have. The less sway your failures will hold. So train your mind every day. Train it to focus. Train it to persist. Train it to choose long-term growth over short-term comfort. Because when your mind becomes strong, there's nothing, no pain, no doubt, no distraction that can stop you. Your body follows your mind. Your success follows your focus. And one day, when others are giving up, you'll still be standing, smiling, calm in the storm. Not because life got easier, but because you became unshakable. Make discipline your identity, not your habit, not your routine, not something you try to do when life feels good, but something that defines who you are. Because you see, my dear friends, when you do something out of habit, you do it when it's convenient. When you do it out of identity, you do it because it's simply who you are. You don't question it. You don't negotiate with it, you live it. A soldier doesn't wake up every morning asking, should I protect my country today? A mother doesn't think, should I love my child today? No. They just do it, because that's who they are. When you make discipline part of your identity, it's no longer a debate between your emotions and your duties. It becomes automatic. It becomes natural. It becomes you. The problem is, most people say, I'm trying to be disciplined. The moment you say trying, you've already given yourself permission to fail. You're saying, if I don't do it, it's okay. But when you say, I am disciplined, the game changes. Your mind starts aligning with that truth. Because identity is powerful. The human brain loves to stay consistent with how it sees itself. If you tell yourself, I'm lazy, your brain will look for ways to prove it right. If you tell yourself, I'm not good at this, your actions will follow. But if you say, I'm disciplined, your brain will start finding ways to match that identity. It's not about forcing yourself anymore. It's about becoming that kind of person. Let's take a simple example, brushing your teeth. You don't need motivation to do it every morning, right? You don't say, oh, I'm waiting for inspiration to brush my teeth. No. You do it without thinking because it's part of who you are. It's automatic. That's the level you must reach with discipline. When discipline becomes your identity, waking up early, exercising, studying, working hard, these things stop feeling like chores. They start feeling like a reflection of your character. You no longer say, I have to. You start saying, this is what I do. But to reach that level, you have to go through discomfort. Because every time you choose discipline over laziness, you're voting for the kind of person you want to become. Every decision is a vote. When you skip your goals, you're casting a vote for your old self. When you push through even a little, you're voting for your stronger self. That's how identity is built, not in one day, but in 1,000 small, unseen choices. Imagine your life as a temple. Discipline is the brick. Every time you act with discipline, you place one brick on that temple. At first, you may not see much progress, but keep going. Day after day, decision after decision, brick after brick. One day, you look back and realize, I built something unbreakable. And what's beautiful is that once discipline becomes part of who you are, it begins to ripple through every area of your life. You become more grounded, more focused, more peaceful. You stop chasing moods because you have meaning. You stop fighting laziness because you've already decided who's in charge. When people see you, they'll say, you're so disciplined. But what they won't see are the nights you wanted to quit, the mornings you didn't want to wake up, the moments you forced yourself to do what mattered. Because discipline isn't loud, it's silent, it's not glamorous, It's repetitive. It's the quiet strength that builds giants. Let me tell you something powerful. People often think discipline restricts you, but in truth, it frees you. Because when you are disciplined, you don't live at the mercy of your emotions. You live by your principles. You become trustworthy to yourself, and that's the greatest kind of freedom. So stop waiting to feel disciplined. Stop saying, I'll try. Start declaring, I am disciplined. Speak it, live it, breathe it. Because once you make discipline your identity, every choice becomes clear. Every action becomes purposeful. Every day becomes sacred. And when others look at you, confused about how you stay so consistent, how you keep showing up even when it's hard, just smile and say, it's not something I do, it's who I am. Remove friction from action. My dear friends, if there's one truth that can change the way you work, the way you live, the way you move towards your goals, it's this. It's not the big obstacles that stop you, it's the small frictions. You see, we often think we fail because we're not strong enough, smart enough, or motivated enough. But the truth is, most people don't fail because of lack of willpower. They fail because of too much friction between them and the action they need to take. Let me explain. Imagine a heavy door. Behind it lies everything you want: success, growth, peace, health, happiness. The only thing stopping you from opening it isn't that you don't want what's inside. It's that the door is jammed with dust, with rust, with years of not being used. That resistance, that friction makes it hard to move. Similarly, in life, friction can appear in small ways. Your environment, your habits, your distractions, your cluttered mind. You say you want to study, but your phone is on your desk. Notifications keep popping up. You say you want to work out, but your gym clothes are buried under a pile of laundry. You say you want to start journaling, but your notebook is somewhere in a drawer you never open. And then we blame ourselves. We say, I'm lazy, I'm inconsistent, I'm not focused. But what if the problem isn't you? What if the problem is your setup? When there's too much resistance between intention and action, even the strongest will begin to fade. That's why wise people don't just work hard, they work smart. They design their lives in a way that makes the right actions easy. Let me tell you something simple but powerful. Make it easy to do what's good and make it hard to do what's bad. If you want to exercise in the morning, keep your shoes right beside your bed. If you want to read more, place your book where your eyes will land first thing in the morning. If you want to use your phone less, keep it in another room when you work. If you want to eat healthy, don't keep junk food in your house. Because discipline is not just about self-control, it's also about structure. When you remove friction, you remove excuses. There was once a student who told me, I can't focus when I study. My mind keeps wandering. I asked him, where do you study? He said, on my bed. I smiled and said, then your mind isn't wandering, it's sleepy. The environment you create tells your mind how to behave. If you want focus, create a space for focus. If you want peace, create an atmosphere of calm. If you want action, create surroundings that invite movement. Friction is sneaky. Sometimes it's physical, clutter, distractions, noise. Sometimes it's mental, overthinking, perfectionism, fear. And sometimes it's emotional, guilt, comparison, self-doubt. When your mind is filled with too many should I and what if thoughts, it becomes heavy. That heaviness is also friction. So to move forward, simplify your path. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need 10 strategies. You need clarity. What's the next single step you can take? That's it. Take that step, and once it's done, take the next one. You know, success doesn't come to the most talented person, it comes to the most consistent. And consistency is born not from motivation, but from simplicity. When doing the right thing becomes simple, it becomes repeatable. Think about monks. Their lives are extremely disciplined, but also very simple. They remove unnecessary decisions, unnecessary noise. Why? Because every decision, every distraction adds friction to the mind. And a cluttered mind is a tired mind. We live in a world full of friction, digital friction, emotional friction, social friction. Every ping, every scroll, every comparison adds weight to our actions. If you don't control your environment will control you. So remove what doesn't serve you, simplify what drains you, streamline what distracts you. Make your path so clear that your only job each day is to walk it. Every time you eliminate one point of friction, one distraction, one bad habit, one unnecessary step, you make it easier for your best self to appear. And here's the magic: once you remove friction, momentum takes over. You no longer have to push yourself every day. The system begins to pull you. Like a well-oiled machine, your life begins to flow smoothly. It's like riding a bicycle downhill instead of uphill. Same effort, different direction. That's what removing friction does. So look around your life and ask, what's slowing me down? What's making the good things hard to do and the bad things easy to repeat? Then start clearing one by one. Because when your path is clear, your progress feels natural. When your mind is light, your actions become effortless. Remember, you don't need more willpower, you need less friction. And once you learn to live like that, focused, clear, intentional, you'll realize that discipline isn't about struggling harder. It's about designing smarter. It's about creating a life that flows instead of one you constantly have to fight. Emotion follows motion. A truth so simple, yet so powerful that if you really understand it, it can change the way you live your entire life. You see, most people wait to feel right before they act right. They wait to feel inspired before they start writing, to feel confident before they start speaking, to feel motivated before they start moving. And that, my dear friends, is where they get stuck, sometimes for years. Because feelings are followers, not leaders. If you wait for your emotions to lead, you'll keep waiting forever. Let me tell you something. Your body and your mind are deeply connected. When your body moves, your mind shifts. When your body sits still, your mind becomes heavy. That's why when you lie in bed feeling low, the longer you stay there, the heavier your emotions become. But the moment you sit up, open the curtains, take a walk, or do one small thing, your emotional energy begins to rise. Have you ever noticed? On days when you don't feel like doing anything, just cleaning your room, or going for a short walk, or doing a small task suddenly changes your mood. You start to feel alive again. That's because motion creates emotion. Think of a stagnant pond, still dark, lifeless. But the moment the water begins to flow, it becomes clear, vibrant, full of movement. That's your mind. When it's still for too long, it gathers negativity, doubt, and fear. But once you move, once you take that one step, it comes back to life. The problem is, we've been taught the opposite. We've been taught wait for the right mood. We say things like, I'll study when I feel focused. I'll go to the gym when I feel ready. I'll work on my goals when I'm in the mood. But the mood doesn't come first. The action does. Let me share a story with you. There was a man who wanted to become a writer. Every morning, he sat in front of a blank page and said, "I'm waiting for inspiration." Days passed, weeks passed. He wrote nothing. One day, his mentor came to visit and said, "Show me what you've written." The man said, "Nothing yet. I'm waiting for inspiration to come." The mentor smiled and said, "Inspiration doesn't visit those who wait. It visits those who begin. Write a bad line. Write a messy paragraph, but write something." And that day, the man started writing, not perfectly, but honestly. And soon, the inspiration he'd been waiting for began to flow. That's how life works. When you move, life responds. When you act, clarity follows. When you take that small first step, emotion begins to align with action. Emotion follows motion. That means even if you don't feel confident, act confident. Stand tall, breathe deeply, speak calmly. Soon your body language will tell your mind, "We are confident." If you don't feel happy, move like someone who is. Smile, stretch, walk with energy. Your brain will start producing chemicals that match your movement. Because the body sends signals to the brain. It doesn't just receive them. You can't think your way into better feelings. You have to move your way into them. When you're sad, the mind says, "Stay still." When you're tired, the mind says, "Rest more." But often, the solution is the opposite. Move your body to move your mind. It's the law of momentum. Once you start, energy starts to build. You go from motionless to moving, from moving to flowing, from flowing to unstoppable. Even monks who spend hours in meditation understand this principle deeply. They don't meditate to feel calm first. They begin to meditate and calmness follows. They act first, the feeling arrives later. The same applies in relationships, work, spirituality, everything. Don't wait to feel love to show kindness. Show kindness and love will grow. Don't wait to feel gratitude to say thank you. Say thank you and gratitude will awaken. Don't wait to feel confident to take the stage. Take the stage and confidence will meet you there. You have to go first. The feeling follows your lead. When you act despite your emotions, when you take that small step, even when your heart resists, you are training your mind to understand that you are in charge. You are the driver, not your moods. You are the leader, not your laziness. And that's how greatness is built. The people you admire, athletes, artists, thinkers, monks, they don't wake up every day feeling like doing what they do. But they start anyway. They trust that once they begin, the feeling will come. And it always does. My dear friends, remember this. Action first, feeling later. The more you move, the more alive you feel. The more you act, the more motivated you become. Because emotion follows motion. Always. So tomorrow when your alarm rings and your mind says, "I don't feel like it," don't negotiate. Move. When you don't feel like praying, start anyway. When you don't feel like working, begin with one small task. When you don't feel like talking, smile anyway. Because the moment you move, you remind your soul, "I am still in control." And once your soul remembers that energy, joy, purpose, they all start flowing again. Don't wait for the perfect feeling to begin. Begin. And you'll find the perfect feeling waiting for you on the other side of action. My dear friends, this one truth can change the way you see progress, the way you build habits, and the way you treat yourself on this long journey of growth. Because so often, we measure our worth by outcomes, by the result we see, the praise we receive, or the success that others can notice. But life doesn't always reward you immediately. The seeds you plant today don't turn into trees tomorrow. The effort you give this week might not show any visible fruit for months, even years. And in that waiting, in that invisible stage of growth, most people give up. Not because they aren't capable, but because they can't see progress. That's why, my friends, you must learn to reward yourself for the effort, not just the result. Because results take time, but effort is in your control today. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who wanted to build his dream body. Every morning he went to the gym, worked hard, and looked at himself in the mirror. Day 1, no change. Day 2, no change. Day 3, 4, 5, nothing. And by the end of the week, he felt frustrated. What's the point? He said, I'm doing everything right, but I see no results. But his trainer smiled and said, do you think your body isn't changing just because you can't see it yet? Every rep, every drop of sweat, every workout is a message to your muscles. Grow stronger. The results are forming beneath the surface. That's how life works too. The universe always listens to consistent effort. Even when you think it's silent, we humans are so addicted to results that we often forget the power of small wins. We celebrate reaching the destination, but ignore the thousands of steps it took to get there. We forget that every tiny action counts, every no to distraction, every yes to discipline, every quiet moment of trying when nobody's watching. Rewarding effort means acknowledging the courage to show up. Because sometimes the hardest part is not winning. It's not quitting. Think about it. A student who studies every day, even when it's boring. A writer who writes every morning, even when the words don't flow. A person who chooses kindness even when others are rude. These are victories too. Quiet victories. Invisible victories. But they matter just as much as the big ones. When you learn to celebrate effort, you begin to fall in love with the process, not just the prize. You stop seeing discipline as punishment and start seeing it as progress. Because the truth is, when you reward only results, your motivation becomes fragile. You feel good only when things go your way. But when you reward effort, your motivation becomes unshakable. Because effort is always in your control. You can't control outcomes, not fully. You can't control who praises you, who supports you, or what happens tomorrow. But you can always control the effort you give today. Rewarding effort doesn't mean being satisfied with mediocrity. It means respecting the journey. It means knowing that greatness is built on thousands of attempts, not one lucky break. Look at nature. Does a tree grow by rushing? Does a flower bloom in one day? No, they grow quietly, little by little, from the effort of reaching towards sunlight every single day. And yet, when they finally bloom, everyone says, how beautiful! No one saw the silent effort beneath the soil. So when you're working hard and no one notices, reward yourself. When you show up for the 5th time after failing 4, reward yourself. When you do what's right even when it's hard, reward yourself. The reward doesn't have to be big. It can be a moment of gratitude, a walk in peace, a few minutes of reflection where you simply say, I did something today. I showed up today. Because when you acknowledge effort, your brain learns to associate action with pride. That's how habits are born, not by force, but by appreciation. And let's be honest, we're often so kind to others, but so harsh on ourselves. We forgive others' mistakes easily. But when we fail, we say, I'm useless. I'm weak. I can't do it. But think about it. Would you speak that way to a child learning to walk? Would you say, you fell, so you're not meant to walk? Of course not. You'd smile, clap, and say, you took a step! Try again. then why not treat yourself the same way? Every effort you make, even if it's small, even if it's imperfect, deserves to be seen, acknowledged, and appreciated. That's how self-respect is built. That's how confidence is built. That's how discipline becomes sustainable. When it's fueled by encouragement, not by judgment. So the next time you don't see results, remember, it doesn't mean nothing's happening. Sometimes your life is growing roots before it grows fruits, and roots grow in silence. Celebrate that silence. Reward that consistency. Honor that effort. Because one day, when the results finally show, when people say, "You've changed overnight," you'll smile, knowing it didn't happen overnight at all. It happened every day, in the small moments you chose to keep going. So stop asking, "Did I win today?" And start asking, "Did I try today?" If you did, that's enough. Because trying is progress, showing up is strength, effort is victory. Reward yourself for effort, not just for success, and you'll realize you've been succeeding all along.